Okay, let's dive right in. We are looking at a unfolding crisis today. Our sources for this deep dive, they paint this terrifying picture of the hours right before Hurricane Melissa hits Jamaica. We're talking a Category 5 monster.
Yeah, and it's not just, strong winds. What we've got here is a snapshot of a catastrophe in motion. You see the sheer scale of the storm scientifically, but also these incredibly difficult human challenges, trying to prepare, trying to save lives.
So our mission here is really to unpack that immediate threat
Right.
and all the complex things happening because of it.
Exactly. And look, the data doesn't lie. This isn't just another storm. This is actually history happening. Jonathan Porter, he's the chief meteorologist over at AccuWeather. He confirmed it. Melissa is, quote, the strongest hurricane in recorded history to ever make a direct hit on Jamaica.
Oh, strongest ever. That really sets the stage. So
Mhm.
Category 5, how do the sources actually, quantify that? What are the numbers behind strongest ever?
They're pretty chilling numbers, honestly. Records go back to 1851. At its peak, Melissa had sustained winds of 175 miles per hour. That's 280 kilometers per hour.
175 mile, and that's the absolute top end of the scale.
It is. That kind of force, it basically guarantees catastrophic damage. Doesn't matter how prepared you think you are.
Okay, so let's break down this catastrophe. The wind is obviously devastating, but the sources call Melissa a slow-moving giant.
Mm-hmm.
Late Monday, it was about 150 miles southwest of Kingston, just crawling along. What does that slow speed mean?
That slow speed is, it's almost the worst case scenario for impact. It means the storm just sits there, dumping rain, pushing that surge for longer over the same areas. And the forecast track isn't kind either. It's set to cut diagonally right across the island.
Diagonally, so entering near St. Elizabeth in the south?
Yeah, and then exiting up near St. Anne in the north. That path means a huge part of the country gets hit, and gets hit hard for a really long time, hours and hours of destructive force.
Okay, so slow movement maximizes the time it hits. What are the specific big threats the U.S. National Hurricane Center is warning about? It's more than just wind, you said.
Oh, definitely. Two massive threats stand out because of that slow crawl. First, the rain. Parts of eastern Jamaica could see up to a meter of rain. That's 40 inches.
40 inches. A meter of rain. That's unimaginable.
It is. Think about maybe a month's worth or more falling in just a day or two. The forecast immediately warns of catastrophic flash flooding and numerous landslides. In a mountainous island nation like Jamaica, that's deadly. Even western Haiti, just getting the edge of it, might get 16 inches.
And the second major threat, usually the deadliest with coastal storms.
It's the storm surge, yeah. They're forecasting a life-threatening surge up to 4 meters. That's 13 feet across the southern coast.
13 feet of water, higher than the ground floor of most buildings.
Exactly. And you combine that surge with how fast this thing blew up, went from a tropical storm to a Cat 5 incredibly quickly, it forces you to think about the bigger picture.
You mean the climate context. That rapid intensification is something we hear a lot about globally. Did Jamaica's own Met Service comment on that?
They did. Evan Thompson, he's the director there, pointed it out. He said this kind of rapid strengthening is unusual, worrying. He stated it's usually indicative of the kind of warm waters that we're experiencing that we believe is somewhat related to climate change.
And when a storm spins up that fast, the warning time just shrinks, doesn't it?
Dramatically.
Yeah.
Which brings us to this awful reality facing officials. How do you prepare for something you fundamentally cannot stop? Prime Minister Andrew Holness, he was incredibly blunt about it.
What did he say? His assessment seems key here.
He basically said, flat out, there is no infrastructure in the region that can withstand a Category 5. That's a really stark, honest admission. He said the focus has to shift now away from prevention towards the speed of recovery.
Speed of recovery. But that's made so much harder by recent history, isn't it? The sources mentioned St. Elizabeth Parish right in the storm's path. They were hit hard by Hurricane Beryl just last year.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. Some people there had only just finished repairs from Beryl, or were still repairing. So they're starting this crisis already reeling from the last one. It's just relentless.
And that vulnerability shows, right? St. Elizabeth already lost power late Monday, before the main storm even arrived.
Exactly. Shows how fragile the grid is. But it's not just local areas. Critical national infrastructure is right there on that threatened south coast.
I saw that. The main international airport, key power plants.
Yeah.
They're mostly near Kingston.
Yeah.
Exactly where that 13-foot surge is forecast.
Precisely. If that surge hits and takes out the airport, the power plants, how do you even begin to coordinate relief? How do you get aid in? It escalates things immediately towards a humanitarian disaster.
And it affects healthcare too, right? The health minister mentioned vulnerable hospitals.
Yes, Christopher Tufton. He confirmed 3 coastal hospitals,
Okay.
Falmouth, Black River, Hanover, are really vulnerable to flooding from a high surge. They've actually had to move ground floor patients up to the 2nd floor already.
Moving patients preemptively.
Yeah.
That shows you how certain they are about the flooding threat.
It really does. And sadly, the storm system has already proven deadly even before the main Jamaica impact. The reports mention 7 deaths already across the Caribbean, 3 in Jamaica, 3 in Haiti, 1 in the Dominican Republic, with someone still missing there too.
Which brings us to maybe the most difficult part. The human response. The resistance officials are facing. Despite knowing how bad this is, getting people into those nearly 900 shelters is a huge problem.
It's a massive problem. It seems, like you said, counterintuitive. Facing the strongest storm ever, why wouldn't you evacuate?
Yeah. Why the resistance?
Because it's not just about the weather. Officials are up against a deep distrust and really ingrained cultural ways of coping. It got so serious that the Prime Minister actually signed a compulsory evacuation order for the South Coast communities.
Compulsory evacuation. That's not something you see every day. It gives them power to remove people.
Exactly. Empowers the disaster agency, ODPM, to physically move people from high-risk zones if they refuse.
And Port Royal, that historic fishing village, they were on that list but refused to go.
Yeah.
What were their reasons? They seem pretty specific.
Very specific and quite rational from their perspective, sadly. 2 main fears came out. First, fear that if they leave, their homes will be looted, their belongings stolen.
Okay, that's a practical fear based on past experiences, maybe.
Right. And second, critically, they were worried about the safety of women in the shelters, risk in mass gatherings. That points to a huge lack of trust in the security, the management of those official shelters.
So they're weighing the known danger of a Cat 5 hurricane against the perceived danger within the shelter system itself.
It's a terrible calculus, choosing between the natural disaster and a potential social one. And there's another layer, too, a strong cultural one, faith.
Ah, yes. The sources mention this. How does faith play into the resistance?
Well, Jason Hensel from Jake's Hotel, he talked about it. He said Jamaicans have deep faith, and historically, quote, we tend to think that we can pray something away. He acknowledged, that faith has saved us on many occasions, maybe through near misses or storms weakening. But his warning and the worry of officials is that at some point, the luck is going to run out.
And a resident echoed that, saying people needed a sign from God before moving.
Yeah, Desert Kenton. He told reporters the Spirit of God has to touch some of the people before they move. So you have mandatory warnings based on science hitting up against, well, both deep systemic distrust and this powerful cultural conviction. How do you enforce evacuation then?
It's an almost impossible situation for authorities, fighting psychology and logistics at the same time.
And the risk, of course, is that those who stay behind, who don't trust the system or trust in faith alone, they become the ones who need rescue later, overwhelming services that are already stretched thin.
Looking beyond the official warnings and resistance, the sources give us these really personal stories, don't they? They really humanize what's happening.
They do. You see the immediate economic impact. Maria Douglas, a shop owner in Portland. The power went out way earlier than she expected. She's quoted saying, "My ice cream is melting. I have to be giving them away as well as drinks." She's worried about a big loss.
Losing your entire inventory before the storm even peaks?
Yeah.
That's devastating for a small business.
Absolutely. And same for farmers. Leslie Burton, also in Portland, worried sick about his animals. He said they are his livelihood. He tried to secure them, but the early winds already tore off their zinc roof coverings. Losing livestock is losing your capital, your future earnings.
And just the personal fear. Ava Brown, a single mom in St. Elizabeth, one of the hardest hit areas.
Yeah, she described as feeling really scared, needed a neighbor just to help board up her windows, and she was already thinking about basics, like how to ration food. That shift from prep to pure survival mode happened so fast.
Which circles back to that warning from the health minister, Christopher Tufton, about refusing to evacuate.
Right. His point was stark. If you stay in a danger zone and need help later, you're putting immense extra pressure on hospitals and emergency services that are already facing their own flooding risks and vulnerabilities. It's a ripple effect.
So, stepping back, the picture is, well, it's grim. A record-breaking storm hitting a nation where the leader admits the infrastructure can't cope.
Exactly. You've got this collision of extreme weather, known infrastructure weakness, and this really complex social resistance to safety measures.
It's about immediate survival, but tangled up with historical distrust and this deep cultural faith that makes official evacuation orders really hard to enforce.
And the data, the forecasts, they all point towards this becoming more than just a localized disaster very quickly. It's moving towards a humanitarian emergency.
Jonathan Porter at AccuWeather actually used that term, didn't he? Humanitarian crisis.
He didn't mince words, warned Melisgo would likely become one fast and would need significant international support.
Which leads us, and you the listener, with a really heavy question to think about, doesn't it? Given everyone expects this to become a major humanitarian crisis, needing international aid, how does a vulnerable country like Jamaica manage that? How do you handle the immediate life-saving stuff, literally trying to force people into shelters, while at the same time trying to even start planning for a recovery that you already know will overwhelm everything you have?
That's the crux of it. The immediate survival fight happening right alongside the long-term survival planning, both drawing on resources that are about to be completely swamped. It's an almost impossible balancing act.